Welcome the rare gems. The moment you stop trying to fit into someone else's mold, you become unstoppable. Sigma females don't just live life, they own it. These are the women who refuse to play by anyone's rules but their own. They walk into a room, and you can feel their presence not because they demand attention, but because they don't need it. Their strength lies in their independence, their clarity, and their unshakable belief that they don't need to be controlled, fixed, or reshaped to fit someone else's narrative. Being a Sigma female isn't about rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's about freedom. It's about rejecting the invisible chains of manipulation, societal expectations, and toxic relationships. It's about choosing authenticity over approval and courage over conformity. If you've ever doubted the power of being true to yourself, this is your reminder to stop underestimating your worth. You're not difficult, you're discerning, you're not stubborn, you're steadfast, and you're certainly not cold. You're just tired of people mistaking kindness for weakness. This video dives deep into the 15 reasons why Sigma females are impossible to control. Whether you're a Sigma female or just someone who admires their strength, this is your call to embrace that unshakable energy. Watch till the end. You won't regret it. Number 1. They're driven by principles, not authority. Sigma. Females are wired differently when it comes to authority. They don't follow just because someone says they should, and they certainly don't bend to power for the sake of appearances. Their decisions are rooted in principles, deeply personal, carefully thought-out values that guide their every move. These women don't care if a rule comes from the highest authority or a persuasive voice. If it doesn't align with what they believe is right, it holds no weight. This makes them a nightmare for anyone who thrives on control. The usual tricks, appealing to titles, status, or hierarchy, simply don't work on them. They've seen how authority is often a mask for manipulation or self-interest, and they're not impressed. What matters to them is integrity, fairness, and authenticity, and they measure every demand or expectation against this internal yardstick. If something doesn't match their principles, they don't hesitate. They'll reject it outright, no matter who it's coming from. What sets them apart is their unwavering ability to act on this. Most people second-guess themselves when confronted with authority, but Sigma females trust their gut. They're not rebellious for the sake of being difficult, they're selective. If they walk away, it's not impulsive, it's deliberate, calculated, and final. They won't waste time justifying their decisions to someone who doesn't understand their values. The beauty of this mindset is its purity. Sigma females don't live for validation or approval, they live for authenticity. Their principles are their true north, and they'll follow that compass wherever it leads, even if it means stepping into the unknown. And that's exactly why they're impossible to control. They don't need someone else's roadmap. They've already built their own. Number 2. They see freedom as non-negotiable. For a Sigma female, freedom is the air they breathe. It's essential, non-negotiable, and deeply personal. They don't see independence as something they've earned or been granted. It's their birthright, and they guard it fiercely. The moment someone tries to tether them, even with the best intentions, it feels like suffocation. The more someone tightens the grip, the faster they pull away. It doesn't matter if the control is framed as protection, love, or concern. Sigma females see through the facade. They don't need anyone to dictate what's good for them because they trust their own judgment above all else. When someone says, "I'm just looking out for you," but their actions say, "I'm trying to limit you," it's game over. There are no explanations, no second chances, and no drawn-out debates. This isn't about being difficult or defiant, it's about survival. To a Sigma female, freedom isn't a preference, it's a core part of who they are. Being tethered to a person, an idea, or a system feels like losing themselves, and that's a price they'll never pay. They would rather walk alone, face the unknown, and make their own mistakes than surrender their autonomy for the sake of comfort or approval. Anyone who tries to control them underestimates how quickly they can detach. Sigma females don't cling to toxic relationships or endure suffocating environments. They don't wait for permission to reclaim their freedom, they simply take it back. To control a Sigma female is to misunderstand her entirely because for her, freedom isn't just a part of life. It is life. Number 3. Control is a red flag. They spot instantly. Sigma. Females are natural detectors of hidden agendas. They don't need to dig through layers of behavior to figure out if someone is trying to control them. It's instinctual. The moment someone's words or actions carry even the faintest hint of manipulation, their internal alarms start blaring. It's not paranoia. It's a finely tuned sense of self-preservation, honed through years of observing how control often hides behind facades of care or loyalty. They're not fooled by sugar-coated commands or passive-aggressive ultimatums. When someone tries to present control as concern, whether it's a suggestion cloaked as advice or a boundary disguised as love, they don't just sense it, they dissect it. Sigma females pay close attention to the energy behind the words, the patterns of behavior, and the subtle shifts in tone. They don't need dramatic confrontations or glaring evidence to know when something isn't right. What's remarkable is how quickly they act. They don't waste time hoping for change or making excuses for the other person. The moment they feel their independence being threatened, they start planning their exit, quietly, strategically, and with zero emotional fanfare. They won't announce their suspicions or engage in drawn-out debates. They'll simply adjust their boundaries, pull back emotionally, and when the time is right, walk away without a second thought. This ability to spot control isn't just about avoiding toxic relationships. It's a declaration of their worth. Sigma females refuse to stay in spaces where their freedom is compromised, no matter how convincing the manipulation might seem. To them, control isn't just a red flag, it's a deal breaker. Once they see it, there's no going back. Number 4, they stay 10 steps ahead. Control thrives on routine, predictability, and knowing what someone will do next. But Sigma females, they shatter those expectations without even trying. To the outside world, their decisions can appear spontaneous, almost chaotic, but in reality, there's often a carefully crafted logic behind every move they make. They don't operate on obvious patterns or routines that others can latch onto, which makes controlling them nearly impossible. What sets Sigma females apart is their ability to think several steps ahead of everyone else. They're not impulsive, they're strategic. While most people are stuck reacting to the present, Sigma females are already considering the ripple effects of every choice they make. They factor in outcomes, possibilities, and contingencies that others don't even notice. This ability keeps would-be manipulators in a constant state of frustration, as every attempt to box them in feels like grasping at shadows. Controllers often rely on predictability to tighten their grip, anticipating reactions, exploiting weaknesses, and setting traps based on expected behavior. But Sigma females are masters of the unexpected. One day they'll seem fully engaged. The next, they've emotionally checked out and moved on. Their unpredictability isn't just a quirk, it's a defense mechanism that keeps them one step ahead of anyone trying to influence or confine them. This forward-thinking mindset isn't about playing games, it's about self-preservation. Sigma females understand the subtle art of staying out of reach. By keeping their cards close to their chest and making moves that don't fit into anyone else's script, they ensure that control, in any form, is a game they'll never lose. At number 5, they see control as a form of weakness. To a Sigma female, control is a glaring red flag, not of strength but of weakness. In their eyes, the need to manipulate or dominate someone else is a clear admission of insecurity. It signals a lack of self-mastery, as if the person trying to exert control is compensating for their inability to handle their own life. And for a Sigma female, nothing could be less impressive. They don't buy into the illusion that control equals power. Instead, they see it for what it is, fear disguised as dominance. Whether it's subtle manipulation or outright demands, they recognize these behaviors as a desperate attempt to feel significant by tethering someone else. But Sigma females are immune to this kind of false authority. The more someone tries to hold them down, the more they see it as a reflection of that person's fragility, not their strength. This perspective only strengthens their resistance. Why would they submit to someone who can't even control their own insecurities? Why would they respect behavior that screams desperation instead of confidence? Sigma females don't fight back because they're rebellious. They resist because they understand their own worth. They won't shrink themselves to fit someone else's ego, and they won't stick around to feed someone's need for validation through control. For them, true power lies in autonomy, in mastering yourself, not others. And that's why controlling a Sigma female is a futile exercise. The harder you try, the more you expose your own weaknesses and the faster they detach. They'd rather walk alone in their strength than stay tethered to someone who mistakes control for connection. Number 6. They don't over-explain. Sigma females are masters of brevity when it comes to dealing with control. While controllers thrive on engaging in long, drawn-out debates, hoping to wear their targets down through constant back and forth, Sigma females have a different approach. They don't over-explain. They don't feel the need to justify their decisions or actions to anyone, especially not someone trying to dominate them. For Sigma females, no is a complete sentence. It's not followed by a lengthy explanation or a breakdown of their reasoning. If they don't want to engage, they simply don't. And if someone pushes for an answer, they'll offer a firm, decisive response or retreat into silence. There's no emotional expenditure, no waste of time or energy. They know their worth and their boundaries, and they don't feel obligated to explain or defend them. Controllers expect people to crumble under the pressure of their questioning, but Sigma females are immune to that tactic. They recognize it for what it is, an attempt to exhaust, manipulate, and dominate. Rather than engage, they simply detach. This silent resistance is often more powerful than any verbal argument because it conveys a clear message. Your need to control me is irrelevant. This lack of explanation drives controllers crazy because it's disorienting. They can't grasp why their usual tactics aren't working. And that's exactly why Sigma females stand firm. They understand that their time and energy are precious, and there's no reason to waste them on anyone trying to dominate or manipulate them. Number 7. They turn the tables effortlessly. Sigma females have a rare ability to turn the tables on anyone attempting to control them, and they do it effortlessly. When faced with manipulation, rather than reacting defensively or getting caught up in the struggle, they simply mirror the controlling tactics being used against them. The result? The manipulator ends up facing the exact same tactics they were trying to use on the Sigma. This subtle shift forces the would-be controller to confront their own behavior, often revealing their intentions in the process. What makes this move so effective is its precision. Sigma females don't have to escalate things to win. Quietly reflecting the same methods back on the manipulator dismantles their power completely. The manipulator, expecting compliance, is thrown off balance as they find themselves suddenly subject to the same manipulation they've been trying to inflict. The Sigma female doesn't need to engage in a back-and-forth debate. She simply shows them what they're really doing, using their own playbook against them. This tactic is disorienting to the controller, who thought they had the upper hand. Suddenly, they're forced to confront their own toxic behavior and examine their methods. For a Sigma female, it's not about proving a point or winning an argument. It's about exposing manipulation for what it is, and watching the controller's carefully constructed plans crumble. The more someone tries to dominate, the more they end up trapped by their own tactics. And in the end, it's the Sigma female who walks away unscathed, while the manipulator is left to question their own actions. At number 8, they have nothing to prove. Sigma females are practically untouchable because they have nothing to prove. In a world where most people are constantly seeking validation, approval, or status, Sigma females operate from a place of total self-sufficiency. Their sense of worth doesn't come from external sources. It's fully self-contained. This is their ultimate weapon against anyone trying to control them. Because they don't need to chase attention or recognition, there are no weak spots to exploit. Controllers thrive on finding vulnerabilities, whether it's a craving for praise, a fear of rejection, or a need for approval. But Sigma females have none of these. They don't look for external validation because they've already validated themselves. Their sense of identity isn't built on what others think or what they can acquire. It's built on their own values and beliefs. This inner strength makes them nearly impossible to manipulate or dominate. No amount of praise or criticism can alter their course. No threat or flattery can shift their boundaries. They've long since learned that seeking validation is a game that never leads to fulfillment, and that's why they don't play it. When someone tries to control them, they're met with resistance, not because they're angry or defiant, but because Sigma females have no need to engage. They're secure in themselves, which means they don't need to prove anything to anyone. That indifference to external forces is what makes them untouchable. Nothing can be used against them because their worth comes from within. Number 9. They're master strategists. Sigma females don't just think in the moment, they think ahead, far ahead. They're wired to evaluate the long-term consequences of actions and decisions, which makes them incredibly difficult to manipulate. While others might react emotionally to attempts at control, Sigma females remain composed, calculating their next move with precision. They don't waste energy on impulsive retaliation. Instead, they focus on dismantling the entire system of control piece by piece. When someone tries to control them, their response isn't loud or obvious. They quietly analyze the situation, identifying weaknesses in the framework being used against them. They understand that control isn't just about the person in front of them, it's about the environment, patterns, and dependencies that give that person power. So instead of fighting the battle on the surface, Sigma females strike at the root. What makes them so effective is their ability to remain emotionally detached during these moments. They don't let frustration cloud their judgment or let anger push them into mistakes. Instead, they approach the situation like a game of chess, where every move is deliberate and every decision serves a larger purpose. Whether it's cutting ties, creating new boundaries, or exposing the underlying manipulation, they ensure the control attempts are neutralized for good. This strategic mindset isn't about being cold or ruthless. It's about self-preservation and protecting their freedom. Sigma females understand that reacting impulsively gives their opponent the upper hand, so they stay quiet, stay observant, and stay ahead. By the time the controller realizes what's happening, it's already too late. The game has shifted entirely in the Sigma's favor. At number 10, they devalue power plays. Sigma females see right through power plays and they're unimpressed. Titles, wealth, social status, these things might hold sway over others, but to them they're hollow markers of authority. They've mastered the art of stripping power dynamics down to their core, and if there's no substance behind the facade, they won't give it the time of day. You can flaunt your status or try to use material superiority as leverage, but it'll have no effect. To a Sigma female, respect isn't earned by what you have. It's earned by who you are. They're not moved by flashy displays of dominance or attempts to create a sense of hierarchy. Instead, they evaluate people based on authenticity, intelligence, and values. If someone tries to wield power as a tool of control, they'll immediately see it for what it is, an attempt to compensate for insecurity or mask a lack of depth. This detachment from traditional power structures makes controlling them nearly impossible. They don't play into the games that others rely on to maintain influence. A high-ranking title or an expensive lifestyle might impress some, but Sigma females are more interested in actions and integrity. Try to use your status to dictate their choices, and you'll be met with indifference, or worse, they'll walk away entirely. Their lack of interest in power dynamics isn't about rebellion, it's about clarity. Sigma females have no desire to be part of a system that values control over connection. By devaluing power plays, they make it clear they're not here to compete, submit, or be swayed. If you want their loyalty or respect, you'll need to come with something real, because superficial power won't cut it. Number 11. They observe, don't engage. Sigma females have an innate ability to observe without ever needing to engage. This doesn't mean they're detached or cold, they're just incredibly focused. While most people are caught up in the heat of the moment, reacting to what's happening around them, Sigma females are studying every move, every word, and every underlying motive. They pick up on subtle cues that most people miss, like body language, tone, and unspoken intentions. This heightened awareness allows them to spot manipulation or control attempts almost immediately. By the time the person trying to exert influence realizes their tactics aren't working, the The Sigma has already assessed the situation, understood the dynamics, and started formulating her next move. They don't get flustered or rush into decisions because they trust their ability to think critically and remain objective. When most people are scrambling to respond, the Sigma female is quietly taking mental notes, dissecting the situation with a precision that's hard to match. She doesn't engage unless it's absolutely necessary, which is what often throws off anyone trying to control her. They're used to making moves and expecting a reaction, but when they're met with silence or calculated observation, they're left scrambling, unable to predict what's coming next. This ability to observe without reacting doesn't make Sigma females passive, it makes them strategic. They don't waste energy on unnecessary back and forths or emotional responses. Instead, they use their detached perspective to stay 3 steps ahead of anyone who tries to control them. While others are reacting, the Sigma is already planning her next move, and that's why control tactics rarely succeed. In conclusion, in a world that thrives on power struggles, manipulation, and control, Sigma females stand as a testament to true strength. They aren't defined by the same rules that govern the typical social dynamics because they don't play by those rules in the first place. Their power lies in their independence, self-sufficiency, and unwavering authenticity. Each point we've discussed about why you can't control them highlights a deeper truth. Sigma females are not for bending, breaking, or molding to fit someone else's agenda. They already know who they are, and they don't need anyone else to define them. So if you're trying to control a Sigma female, take a step back. She won't be moved by your tactics, your status, or your attempts to manipulate. Instead, recognize the beauty of what she embodies, someone who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, who operates on their own terms and whose worth is intrinsic. Sigma females don't need the approval of others to thrive. They understand that true power isn't about control. It's about owning your own life, decisions, and boundaries. When you try to control them, you only reveal your own insecurities. But Sigma females, they walk their path confidently, effortlessly. They are the embodiment of freedom, and no amount of external pressure will ever change that. So instead of trying to control them, learn from them. Embrace the strength that comes from being fully yourself, and maybe, just maybe, you'll understand what makes them untouchable. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video. Bye for now, and God bless.